Hi, yeah, it's Jackie here from the LGFA, and we're on a call with our mystic panelists because you'll remember the last day we were on a show. Kiva Morgan from Armagh, and Denise Masterson from Dublin, and Michelle Ryan from Waterford all predicted that Cork would lose to Meath, or that Meath would beat Cork, whatever way you want to look at it, in the TG Carr All Ireland Senior Championship semi final. And Michelle even said it would go to extra time. So, how about that? So we said, look, they're that good. We're going to have them on again to look ahead to the finals, and the finals have come around so quickly, folks. How are you, lads? All good?
Great,
Good,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's come so quickly. Here we are looking forward to next Sunday's three finals: 11:45 a.m. Antrim versus Wicklow in the junior, 1:45 p.m. It's Westmeath against Wexford in the intermediate, and 4:15 p.m. it's Dublin against Meath. All three games live on TG Carr, and you can catch those games worldwide as well on that magic thing called the internet, which you're probably watching on at the moment. So, Denise, we've five Leinster teams heading to Croke Park on Sunday, which is a fair haul. So we spoke over the past couple of years about how important it is to have that competition within the province of Leinster. Dublin and Meath are already senior. You're going to have one more next year. A big improvement.
Well, like we were talking about having Leinster competitive, and now we have a Leinster final in the All Ireland final. So we never thought it'd happen that quickly, you know. But I mean, obviously it's great. And then, like you said, like with Westmeath probably being favourites there, maybe Westmeath and Wexford in the junior or in the intermediate. Oh look, it's great for Leinster. I mean, there was no Leinster championship last year, I suppose, or there wouldn't have been. It would have been just Dublin. So kind of hard to believe that it's Dublin and Meath in the All Ireland final now. But obviously, it means Leinster football is in a good place. But I also think maybe with two Leinster teams in the final, it might mean maybe other counties need to be looking at what they're doing in terms of Meath coming up from intermediate and making it to an All Ireland final in their first year, like not taking away from their achievement. But I'd say other counties are wondering now what they're going to do now to improve.
Kiva, all three of you indeed have experienced the magic of TG Carr All Ireland final day, which are counties Armagh, Kiva, Dublin, Denise, and Waterford. Michelle, Akiva, what are these days leading up to a final like? I mean, what did you do? Did you like to mingle with people? Did you keep to yourself? Did you have any little rituals as the big day approached? Or did you prefer to, did you want to get the game out of your head, or were you happy to think about it? What was your approach?
Well, I suppose I was very lucky. In '05 we had got to the junior All Ireland final, and that was real novel, and you just took it all in, kind of, did your normal things. I didn't really do anything different or whatever. I always had a bit of a ritual of going to the cinema on a night before my county games. So I would have went to the cinema on a Saturday night just to Newry there and watched whatever. And I kind of got into a wee
What
bit
films were out at that time?
of,
God.
oh God, I don't know. Real old ones, Jackie. Black and white. Um, but yeah, that was kind of something I did. And look, these are special, special days. My dad in '77 played for Armagh in an All Ireland final, and I
Yeah.
remember him saying to me, cherish all these things. The Garda escort, and the fans around Dublin, and people talking to you about the match, and even going to mass on the Saturday night, and people saying, "Oh, good luck," and everything. You made sure you always went to mass on the Saturday night before, just to get all the good luck messages. But yeah, keep it pretty normal, but take it all in and really enjoy it, because you really just never know, when you're going to be back there again. And it's such a special, special moment for you and your family, because they have supported you the whole way through that, and your club mates, and all your county people. So it's a very, very special time, and just don't take it for granted, I would say, and savor all those memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, that Armagh team in 2005 won the junior, and a year later they're appearing in a senior final, which is a little bit like the roller coaster ride, which is only heading in one direction, that Meath are on. Incredible achievement to think that Armagh could do it in '05, jumping from junior to senior, albeit there was no intermediate the following year. But for Meath, within the space of 9 months, to win an intermediate title and now be preparing for a senior final, I think it's just fairy tale stuff.
It really is. It's a thing dreams are made of, to be honest. Especially when you consider the heartbreak they went through there for 2 years before that. But it's full credit to them, full credit to for learning from that and for staying unified as a group, and for Aim and Murray and what he's put together there. Like it's been incredible to watch from a distance. But they're fully deserving of being there. I know what Denise is saying there about the other teams But I mean, the thing about Meath is they've managed to still do things that other teams haven't been able to do. Even if you think about that game against Cork, they learn very, very quickly from the time they played them in their first championship game to the time they played them in a semi-final. I mean, Cork have won 11 All-Irelands, right, since 2005. 6 of those finals were won by only a point or two. And they were the masters of the dying minutes of the game, holding on to possession and killing the game out. And it was impossible to get the ball off them. Meath managed to absolutely wipe that out. I mean, they wiped out a 7-point lead in those dying minutes. Uncharacteristic of Cork, and something we haven't seen them done before, is coughing up possession in those last few minutes with the lead. Meath were able to capitalise, keep their head. They fully believe in what they're doing. They fully believe in what they're about, the system that they're playing in. I mean, they couldn't have more confidence going into this game. Nobody, despite all of their achievements as well, everybody is going to be, I would imagine, expecting Dublin to win this match. What an incredible place to be in. Do you know what I mean? It was a weekend of upsets when they bet the Cork in the semi-final. And they're going into this with absolutely no fear. They're still going in there as underdogs, but they've built on every underdog performance before now. So to me, there is no fear of them. It's a fantastic place to be in.
We'll find out now what you think, whether they can or not in a little while, right? Take this monumental step forward. But Denise, on a more general level, can I ask you about Meath and how they're going to approach this game, or how you think they might or should approach this game? The angle I'm coming at here is because they've been labelled a pretty defensive unit, right? Well drilled, well marshalled. Mick Bohan, probably playing some mind games, talking about, how perplexed he is and how much sleepless nights he's had thinking about how he's going to break them down, right? But at the same time, then Michelle talks about that high press towards the end of the Cork game, which yielded 2-1 in the blink of an eye. So they have massive scoring potential as well. They can play a defensive game also. So what do they do on Sunday? Do they sit back and invite Dublin on, or do they say, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, potentially, let's just go for it? Where do you think they're at in terms of all that?
Well, I think an important point Michelle said there as well, with regard to how much they had learned from their previous outing against Cork to the semi-final. But I'd actually even go further than that. Like, their learnings during that game, they reacted really well. I mean, I think they sat back, and to be honest, I know they've nothing to lose, and I fully believe that they feel that way. But I thought they looked a little bit nervous against Cork in the first half. I think Cork had their game plan really well thought out, and Meath we're sitting back, and they are defensive, but I think Meath really break with great flair. Like, I actually thoroughly enjoy watching Meath play football. Like, I think their forward line, every one of them brings something different. I mean, you've Emma Duggan, who's just a complete baller. Like, you have Vicky Wall, like the power and the strength. I think Niamh O'Sullivan brings that real wiseness in the forward. I just think Stacey Grimes is probably one of the best foot passers of the ball in the game. I just think that their forward line is so exciting, but they didn't get them on the ball enough in the first half against Cork. And I think in the second half, when they started pushing up, yes, they left it a bit late, but they did change. I also felt the management team responded really well. Like, I didn't think Orla Lally had a super game out against Armagh, but I didn't think she was on song there against Cork, and the management team were very quick to make that change. So, in fairness to me, they seem to understand their players really well, and the players seem to understand each other really well. And I think that's a huge thing, because I think they're going to have to adapt. I think that they will probably start attentively, I say, but I think they're going to have to shore up at the back. I'd say it will start very defensively, but I would expect that they would change, or that they've worked on how, they need to get Vicky Wall on the ball more. Like, when Vicky got on the ball against Cork, it completely changed the game, I felt. And even maybe a slightly different role from her, but she was linking up. Like, when Meath were struggling to get the ball out, when Vicky Wall was in possession, that started happening easier for them. So I'm sure Meath will have loads of learnings from that, but I do expect them to sit back. I mean, they don't want to be conceding goals early against Dublin, and like you said, I'm sure the Dublin team have thought of lots of different ways to come up against that. I mean, they're going to be looking for players to be putting the ball over the bar from distance. And, I know there's talk of injury concerns and that, but Niamh Heatherton in there, even as a ball winner, or Hannah Tyrrell as a ball winner, they're going to need to be pinging that ball in to be won, maybe in a slightly different way against the Meath defence as well. But to answer your question, I do think Meath will start not dissimilar to the way they did against Cork, but you would hope that they will break much more explosively and with that kind of flair, try and get Vicky Wall on the ball, like bring those like really key players into it early to get on the scoreboard. Like they don't want to be chasing a game against Dublin because Dublin are so experienced. They'll be patient with the ball, you know, their physicality as well. You know, like Meath have a lot to deal with, and I think they know that themselves. But on the flip side of that, like you said, Michelle, like all credit to what they've done, and I think their positivity and their sense of unity as a team, like, is possibly unrivaled. I just listening to Sean Ennis, their captain, or Eamon Murray, or I heard Emma Duggan talking as well. Like they're just oozing positivity, enthusiasm. Like, you know, it's just like they're really on the crest of a wave. And I suppose they don't have anything to lose. And, you know, I suppose it's dangerous opposition to go up against. And in fairness to Mick, there's probably truth in the fact that they're not a team Dublin have analysed in the past 5-6 years. You know, like Dublin knew probably Cork inside out, the Mayo inside out, Galway inside out the past couple of years. Meath are not a team that have been on Dublin's radar. You know, so he probably wasn't half as familiar. Now, look, let's be honest, I'm sure there's no stone being left unturned there now, but I'm sure that they had a lot more work to do in terms of preparing for Meath, which I suppose is you know, some compliment for Meath, but they had a lot more work to do in preparing for Meath than they would have done if they were going out against Cork on Sunday, I think, you know. So, oh, look, you know, you're just hoping Meath go at it with that kind of flair and enthusiasm and, you know, give it a good rattle.
Yeah, like Akiva, from the Armagh perspective, right? I mean, I'd be thinking to myself, okay, Meath beat Armagh in the quarter-final, but I'd be thinking to myself, if Armagh had, you know, it's hypothetical now, obviously, if Armagh had gone through to a final, you know, they didn't lose out by much against Dublin in the semi-final last year, and you'd think to yourself, do you know what, they're in with a chance here. So why are we, if we are we discounting Meath, even though they've beaten Armagh and they've beaten Cork to get here?
Yeah, look, they're all really valid points, you know, and I suppose, you know, as an Armagh person and having sisters on the team, you know, they have been thinking a lot about this, you know, and, you know, it's a case of it could have been, you know, and like Meath will have nothing to fear. And as Denise says, like, you know, they are oozing positivity and enthusiasm, and, you know, it is a really good place to be because, you know, you are the underdog as such, and you just play with no fear. And that was kind of like us in 06. And as we said before, when they played Cork, it's a dangerous team to play. But yes, look, you know, Meath fully deserve to be where they are. It's a process that they have worked on for a long time. But, you know, I kind of criticised the Armagh management, I suppose, after the Meath game. And, you know, then I said to myself, do you know what, Kiva, it's all right criticising, but what would you have done? You know, how would you have tried to combat the Meath system of play? And, you know, as Denise says, Vic will have done all of his homework. There'll be no stone left unturned. And, you know, if I was in the situation and I was Dublin, I would be saying, you know, what you've got to do is on the counter attack, when they break Meath down, they've got to do the long kick pass. They've got to get the ball moving faster than the players will move, because Meath just they actually turn their back to the ball and they retreat to the D. So, you know, they're going to have to use a long kick passing game to get the ball up to those Dublin forwards quickly, and they will do damage, you know. So that's the kind of system of play I would be looking at, you know. And the game will be won and lost on the line, I do believe, because it'll be who adapts quickly as management, you know, to make the decisions, and who will have prepared their team best on the day. You know, Eamon Murray puts up this, you know, we're just, you know, we're glad to be here and it's, you know, great and all that. But, you know, in that changing room, on that training field, Meath are out to win this All Ireland. Yeah. And, you know, it could be the fairy tale finish. We just don't know. But, you know, you have a Dublin team there who are very, very, you know, collected. They're a business outfit is what I would call them. You know, they do their job, they do it very effectively. So it has the recipe for a brilliant game. You know, Meath playing with no fear and Dublin playing with the experience. So yeah, look, it's very exciting. But there are a lot of teams out there that will be kicking themselves and thinking, do you know what? You know, we could have been there too. But it's good for the ladies' game because it shows how close everybody is, and it shows the work that people are doing to push themselves on. So, you know, in one respect, yes, it could have been us, but, you know, it could have been a lot more others as well. And they'll be using that as a platform to go into next year's championship as well.
Absolutely, yeah. God, the more you talk about it and think about it, the more excited you get about what's coming down the tracks on Sunday. Right, Michelle, you told us that Meath would beat Cork after extra time, right? Like, wow, if you had money on that, you wouldn't be sitting here talking to us. So what's going to happen what looking back on it, you genuinely believed that Meath would win it, or was there a little air of romanticism that you let in as well, or had you clinically analysed and said, yeah, Meath will win it? So Sunday then, go on. What are you thinking?
No, I like before. The closer it was getting to the Meath Cork semi-final, I definitely just my entire gut instinct and head was telling me that Meath were going to win that game. And I think, look, we're in a position where we get to sit back and remove ourselves from these emotionally, because our time is finished playing the game. We get to look at these things objectively, and I really just felt that the momentum had been building with Meath, and I think Cork were going back a little bit from their league campaign throughout their championship campaign, and I just felt the moment was right for me to take that step. And going into this game, I wouldn't say I have an overriding gut feeling, but my head would be telling me that I have a feeling that this might just be a slight step too much for them. And that's not to take away from anything that they've created or anything that they've built, but it's more so just, I suppose, the team that they're up against, in that, I mean, so many teams have tried to take on Dublin, and they've tried numerous different systems, whether it's a pack defence, whether it's going toe-to-toe, and Dublin always are able to respond to whatever is thrown at them. I mean, I would have said over the years that I always felt the likes of Donegal and the likes of Armagh, which had huge, tremendous speed in their attack, was the way to go to play against Dublin. Dublin have been able to see those off when they've been pushed to the pin of their collar. And I just think that that's the thing about Dublin. They just are able to respond so well to whatever is thrown at them. They have that experience within their ranks. They have that depth within their ranks. And even in some games when you feel like you're kind of going toe to toe for them, the while they are so good at seeing when that opportunity presents itself. And when it does, they punish and they keep going for it. And the momentum doesn't shift. The impact off the bench is fantastic. There's no drop in anything that happens out there in the pitch. So I just don't know if Meath, who have been playing with great intensity and liveliness in their game, can keep that intensity and liveliness and composure in their game against what is a top class outfit, and has been able to respond to so much that has been thrown at them, and all the many tactics and plans that people have tried to go to. So look, what I'm eager to see is whether, and I think they will stay with their system. It's worked with them so fantastically well. I don't see them drastically changing for it, but I'm looking forward to seeing for how long they can stay toe to toe with them. And I just expect that when the opportunity presents itself, I think Dublin will drive on.
Okay, Michelle makes some very valid points there, Denise. I mean, you were part of great Dublin teams that saw it all and did it all, and at times didn't do it all. You know, had coughed up leads and came back from behind as well. And you have players in this Dublin team now that have literally seen it all. They've unfortunately seen how you can blow a big lead. They've controlled games with big leads. They've won tight matches. They've clutch players for clutch moments. You know, you talk about Denise, Lindsay Davies, Sinead Ahern, the new leaders, Carla Rowe. Even Kiva O'Connor, I think, has made a superb impact this year. There's and Hannah Tyrrell comes in and makes a great team even better if that was possible. Sinead Goldrick back fit. So yeah, I suppose yeah, you're thinking. Are you thinking Dublin as well with the clinical head on you?
Oh, 100%. I think with any head on, to be honest, you know, no matter even romantic, it's just a push too far, because, you know, whatever credit that we're lauding on Meath, like Cork threw that game away to an extent. And I know you have to go and win a game, and they went after it, Meath did. But, you know, Cork probably, Nadine gave me a great one when she was saying that Meath comeback was probably the best comeback in ladies football since Cork's comeback against Dublin in 2014, which was a lovely thing for me to remember. But, you know, it was a phenomenal comeback by Meath, but no more than probably we did against Cork as well. Like, we threw it away, you know, and like Cork threw it away a little bit. You know, those 2 goals that they conceded at the end of the game, they were, you know, they were a lot to do with Cork's mistakes as much as to do with the pressure that Meath were exerting on them. And it's not taken away from what Meath have achieved. You know, I think I've been very high in my praise of Meath when they were going for the intermediate championship last year. I mean, they're a super outfit and they're really organised. And I definitely would agree with Michelle in terms of I don't think they'll change the style of play much. And in fairness, they do offer Dublin something very different to think about. Again, like Emma Troy for me is crucial against
Serious
Dublin.
player.
You know, I thought she was quiet again against Cork in the first half. Like, you know, you just want Emma Troy putting the Dublin full forward line on the back foot from the start of the game, like doing those runs up the pitch. You know, like they have a couple of key players that I think will be really important in shaking it up a little bit for Dublin. And I agree with you about Caoimhe O'Connor. I actually think that was one of her best games out against Mayo in terms of her hunger and winning the ball. And I suppose that's a scary thing for me to be thinking about. You know, Caoimhe came in because Carla was injured. So, I mean, if Carla's back fit and the two of them are looking for a spot, you know, like, you know, that kind of competition really breeds a lot of hunger into players. And I suppose that's a scary proposition for me, you know, same with, you know, Niamh Heatherton has been doing really well in there, whether or not Macra makes a back fit. Niamh Collins may be coming back into the back line, you know, like she didn't play in an All-Ireland semi-final. If Niamh's ready to go, like Niamh's already like a dog waiting to be let out of the traps in most games. But you can imagine if you've missed a semi-final, like, and you're coming back fit, like she'll be, you know, and I suppose that would make it a little bit maybe nervy for Meath. But, you know, I think Meath would have to play to the absolute best of their ability and a little bit more, maybe a little bit of luck or something like that to come over Dublin. You know, I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening. I think Dublin have just got too much. Like we said, even coming off the bench, Goldie getting on the pitch for, you know, half the last day is huge as well, because, I mean, I think she said herself she was nervous and it looked. So even getting that half of the game in Croke Park out of her system, you know, that's huge. That's huge for her as well. So, no, I can't look past Dublin. I can't, and I love a bit of romanticism in football, but no, I mean, I don't see me overcoming Dublin. And God, if they did, we'll be talking about it in 40 years. Like, I mean, it would be just incredible. But I think Dublin will be very hard to beat. And like I said, I know you're saying that Meath went and they beat Cork and they beat Armagh. I think Caroline was a huge loss for Armagh.
Yeah.
The Armagh game, and then obviously like Cork lost Orla Finn, and, you know, Ciara O'Sullivan then got that injury very early in the game. And I'm not saying these players are the difference, you know, because I'm sure Armagh and Cork feel that they had the benches to bring in as well. But I mean, things went against maybe their opposition as well. And don't get me wrong, like Meath went after the games, they won them, but I just don't think things will pan out like that against Dublin. I think even if there was a few stumbling blocks, I think Dublin maybe have more on the bench, more experience on the pitch. You know, a couple of players may be thinking this is their last All-Ireland final for Dublin. Let's go out on a high. You know, a lot of things that for me would be a little bit, maybe make it a little bit worried for me.
Okay. So you like a bit of romanticism, but it's not going to happen on Sunday. Right. Okay. Caoimhe, all excellent, valid points from our panelists. And I suppose I don't like dealing in what ifs, but what if Meath play like they did against Armagh? Because I didn't think Meath played particularly well in the semi-final against Cork and won it. So what if they produce that all-time dream performance that Denise talks about? Probably right now, to be honest, that it would have to take an unbelievable Meath performance at Dublin to be below par for it to happen. But I mean, who's to say it might not happen? Let's throw a little bit of romanticism back into the conversation.
you want me to romance the whole
Go on.
excitement here?
Bring the romance, Caoimhe.
Look, yeah, I see what you are all saying, and in my heart, yes, it would be lovely for me, but I just think it's a wee step too far. I feel that, you know, Mick Bohan and his management team will have their homework more than done, and because Meath play with such a rigid plan, I don't know if they have a plan B. And if Dublin take them, you know, and outwit their plan, which you can do, it is doable. It just might be too much for me. You know, I don't know if they have a plan B. You know, they're so used to doing what they're doing. They're so well drilled. And if it doesn't work out, what are they going to do? Yes, they have quality players and good leaders across the pitch there, but are they experienced enough? That's the question you've got to ask. Dublin have experience in abundance, and they have players on the pitch who will make decisions on the pitch themselves. I don't know if Meath have that. Against Armagh, they just rigidly stuck to their plan. I've said so many times, when Armagh got the ball, they just retreated, turned to the D, and they just set up a wall, and that's okay. But there is ways to counteract that plan, and I know Dublin will have the way to counteract the plan. So what will Meath do? Okay, Eamon Murray might have another plan in place for them. They might play a much more open game of football. I don't know, but I find it hard to believe that they would do that. So I don't know. I don't really have much romance to bring to it, unfortunately. I was screaming at the TV when they were playing against Cork, and I was thinking my punditry career's going down the pan here. But I think that Meath exploited a few of Cork's holes, and Cork do have a few holes at the minute, and they exploited those well. They ground it out to the end, and yes, I think it was a lucky win for Meath, albeit a win. And I was happy and delighted to see it because it's shown that all Meath's hard work had paid off. But I can't see it on Sunday. I just think Dublin have a fantastic management and backroom team, and I believe they have quality players all across the pitch, and players to bring back there. Like Carla Rowe for me has been outstanding all year. She's an unbelievable leader, from last year when she took over from Sinead Ahern on a massive day, and she has just stood up ever since. The players that they're able to bring in off the bench, as Denise said, I just don't think Meath will be able to cope with it. But yes, if they could put on a performance, that maybe would keep them with Dublin. But I can't see it. I can't give you romance. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, right. So
Megan about the,
go on, Denise.
Yeah, I think that's really valid when she said Meath kind of picked a few maybe bits like the Cork kick out. I think they targeted them because it wasn't working for them, and it just made me think when we're talking about leaders like Ciara Trant's kick outs against Mayo. I mean, I think maybe two went astray. And her reaction after one of them was like she was still the coolest head on the pitch. And you talk about leaders on the Dublin team, and in fairness, Meath have that probably in Monica McGurk as well. But just in terms of, I don't even think Meath pressing Dublin's kick out. Like Ciara Trant is very hard to rattle in goal. And I just thought that the complete opposite maybe of when Meath were putting that pressure on Cork's kick out and they got good change out of it. I thought Ciara was phenomenal against Mayo in terms of her kickouts, and the one or two that went astray, her reaction to them was, so it's just exactly that, where are Meath going to try and push? What part of Dublin are they going to try and squeeze or target? It's hard to see. And the only maybe possible one is, the two goals Dublin conceded against Mayo were from turnovers, and Mayo hitting quick ball into their forward line and getting two possibly easy enough goals. And I'm sure it's something Dublin have looked at and analysed, and that's why I think if Meath are going to have those players back, Dublin tend to go toe-to-toe with their men. Unless Meath can break fast from a turnover and try and get the ball up pitch to the likes of Emma Duggan, it's hard to see where they can squeeze Dublin anywhere on the pitch.
But even added to that, Denise, the thing about Meath is Emma Duggan doesn't necessarily stay in the forwards. Do you know what I mean? They don't hold their positions, and that's just their system that they're playing. And the work rate is absolutely incredible. But if Emma Duggan and the target players are going to be filtering back into the half back line and into the full back line at times, they're not up on the other end to be receiving it. And I just think as well, I mean, a key area for me as well is around the middle of the field. We've seen Maura O'Shaughnessy and the work rate she brings into the defensive side of her game. Then you have the likes of Jennifer Dunn on the other side, who to me is an absolutely incredible footballer.
Powerhouse.
Is worth one or two scores a game. Generally they're goals, to be honest. But do you know what I mean? I just think what Meath have in those areas, while they have good backs and they have good, filtering back and work rate, I think Dublin have even more on their side to counteract that. I mean, even if you think for the likes of Orla Nolan for Dublin has been a scoring forward for them this year, she's come up from wing back and scored as well. So they can counteract what Meath have, and I just think they can go that little step further with it in each of those areas, and that for me is the key factor.
Yeah, Jennifer Dunn, I couldn't agree more, Michelle. She's been an extraordinary find, in terms of, that partnership with Lauren McGee, and then that allows Siobhan McGrath to drift back from her midfield home where she was, player of the year effectively. Macker can play anywhere, as you well know. Denise, right? Okay, I don't think I even need to ask what way you think this is going to go on Sunday, because you more or less nailed it. So it looks like a 3 Dublin vote. We had a 3 Meath in the semi-final, so let's see how that pans out. Look, it would be obviously very remiss of us not to mention the 2 other finals at Croke Park on Sunday. Westmeath against Wexford is an all Leinster intermediate final. And Michelle, here we have a Westmeath team who lost to Meath in the final last year, but gave them plenty of trouble and scored 3 quick-fire goals in the first half and another one in the second half. And will probably be thinking to themselves, well, if Meath can go up and make such an impact at senior level, surely we weren't too far off them last year. Okay, Meath pulled away and were very, very good in the second half, but are they thinking like that, or are they thinking to themselves, let's not lose the second final in a row?
The funny thing about the intermediate grades, to be honest, is when you're down, it's not a very easy grade to come out of, even though public perception might be that you're the senior team that's gone down and you're going to be the favourites to kind of come back up. Tip, I suppose, kind of bucked that trend a little bit over the last few years. But Westmeath faced numerous difficulties with Meath in the All-Ireland final last year, as you mentioned. Obviously they had their target to get back and to get out of it this year. The only thing I would say is that to my mind, they have struggled to reach this All-Ireland final, in the sense that I don't think their performances have been hugely convincing. Clare in their quarterfinal really put it up to them. They only came out of that in the last quarter there as well. There was a goal between them in the end. Their semi-final versus Kildare, I think it was an Anna Jones goal coming up to the end of the game as well that pulled them through that by a goal. So they really had to work hard this year to even regain a place in the All-Ireland final. They've really had to fight it out. Now, you could look at it another way and say they're, I suppose, battle hardened, and they've come through some gritty games, maybe not with the best of performances, and still managed to reach the All-Ireland final. But it's a tough thing to do. It's a tough ask. And sometimes, I suppose, your heart, if your heart is starting to override, you want to get out of it, you want to get back up to senior. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what kind of approach they have to this game. Have they changed anything about their play compared to what they brought to the All-Ireland final last year? That'll be interesting. And what I would be very wary of if I was them is underestimating this Wexford side, because Wexford have reached in the All-Ireland intermediate final, which not many people would have thought coming into the league campaign. Absolutely. And I suppose the very poor performances that they would have had during that, they've obviously had their issues, management and so on. But have they turned that around for themselves? So, and look, when you have that belief and you have that bit of momentum and you have, I suppose, a bit of positivity in the camp, it's incredible what can happen. So if I were Westmeath, I would just be a bit guarded coming into that and not underestimate this Wexford side.
Yeah, no, I think you've summed it up brilliantly, Michelle. Wexford were relegated from Division 2 of the Lidl National League and conceded 11 goals in one game in that relegation playoff against Tyrone. So to come from that to where they are now, I think is a phenomenal achievement in its own right. They're under the radar. They're very dangerous opponents. I agree with you for Westmeath on Sunday. Kiva, I want to talk to you a little bit about two people you may know. You may have played against them. Kyla Traynor is the Antrim coach, and Emma Kelly, of course, is the manager there. Two people with All-Ireland medals in their back pockets. And if you're talking about Wicklow going in as favourites, having lost the final last year, Antrim I think they're very dangerous opponents for Wicklow as well. You look back through the group stages and the semi-final that Wicklow have played, and Antrim are actually got closest to them, lost them by 5 points. The winning margins in the other games were greater. So do you give Antrim a chance in this final, Creva?
Well, I suppose looking at the junior championship, Wicklow are unbeaten. Antrim have lost twice, but as you say, that all-female leadership there of Kyla and Emma, vastly experienced players themselves. And I've listened to a few interviews from the Antrim girls, and they are feeding off the experience of this management team. It's real refreshing. I'm a big believer in having ladies involved with managing teams or being in the backroom team, because they know how us girls feel, and they can get the best out of them, I think, sometimes. So it's always important, I think, to have a lady around there. But look, I've been lucky enough to commentate in a few of the Antrim minor games, and there is real exciting stuff going on in Antrim, in schools, in clubs and in the county. And I think Kyla and Emma are really bringing bringing that on and fostering that, and they've brought a couple of minors into the squad who are really adding to it, and will be a lot to bring in off the bench. Interestingly though, Antrim have scored 1471 throughout the championship, and Wicklow have scored 871. So where I see Antrim being able to expose there would be in goals, and the big pitch might suit them. Although Wicklow are good defensively, but I think Antrim could really do a good job here on Sunday, and I think that Emma and Kyla will definitely have their homework done. They're a real exciting team, Antrim. They'll be playing probably, with no inhibitions, be delighted to be in Croke Park. They have good experience in Kathy Keary there, who has played, I think, all of Antrim's All-Ireland final appearances she's been in them. But they've other players like Michelle McGee, who's an international netballer, the Taggarts, Juna Coleman, really good players, that play well as a team. They have a good system of play, good nippy forwards. So look, I do think Antrim could cause an upset. I know Wicklow, as I've said, will be favourites and have had a good campaign so far. But I think I'm going to tip Antrim for this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, I'll be honest with you, Kiva, because I'm looking at Marie Keeley has scored 34 points, I think it is, or 35 points, I think, in total for Wicklow. But I'm looking at a greater spread of scores in that Antrim team. Now, albeit there were 2 extra time games, which gave them obviously the extra 40 minutes effectively to rack up those tallies, but still scoring freely. I think it's going to be a very good game. Marie Keeley's on 35 points, incidentally, which is 11 behind Clean and Ihe from Carlow in that golden boot race. So it'll be interesting to see who gets their hand on that trophy on Sunday. I've seen it, beautiful piece. Jarlath Daly, a well-known sculptor, you're probably aware of him, has just done a phenomenal job on this piece, and you'll see it on Sunday evening. And so we've so much to look forward to, folks. Really enjoyed the chat, have to say. So the TG Cahir finals are on Sunday at Croke Park. 11:45 a.m. is Antrim and Wicklow. 1:45 p.m. is Westmeath and Wexford in the intermediate final. And at 4:15 p.m. Dublin against Meath. So the three of you will be at Croke Park. We'll see you there on Sunday, folks. And really appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on today.
Thanks,
Jackie.